Hey, hi, and welcome to the Southern Millennial Mom Podcast. I am Samantha May, and I am officially your Southern Millennial Mom. I don't know what drew you into this podcast, whether it was me telling you about it in person or on my social media, or you just saw it and was like, hey, that looks interesting. But whatever drew you in, thank you so much. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to tell you about myself in this episode. Podcasting was never really something that I thought I would ever do. I've never really had any aspirations to be famous or popular. I think everybody wants to be known for something at some point in their life. Usually it's on good things, but then you have those people that want to be known for the not so good things. Moving on. I actually came across the idea of creating the podcast with my neighbor as we were sitting in their front yard watching our husbands till up some ground for their garden early this year. And it really started off as a joke. Because again, never had any aspirations of being any kind of recording artist, because that's basically what this is. But we were watching our husbands do this, and they did something. And I can't remember who said it first about starting podcasts, but one of us was like, that would be a funny podcast episode. And there was laughter, and then we were watching our kids as they were playing and talking about the weather. And I know the weather was one funny podcast idea because weather in the South is no joke. And then the topic of podcast episodes kept coming up in conversation while we got together, anytime we text each other. And I was like, okay, I see the door that is opened. But unfortunately, the door was not labeled. So I didn't know if I was supposed to start a podcast or listen to podcasts, because I've never been a podcast kind of gal. Because really the only podcasts that I'd ever heard of are the true crime podcasts or the people that read those Reddit posts, the am I the a-hole, am I in the wrong kind of things. And those just really never caught my attention because I don't find them entertaining, fulfilling. Yes, I guess if, you're into that kind of thing, good for you. But it's not something that I really want to sit in my car while I'm waiting in carpool and listen to, or while I'm doing house chores or running errands or whatnot. But I did come across two really great podcasts this year. One is a parenting podcast by two of my favorite TikTok creators, and that's called Child Proof. It's by Tori Phantom and Gwenna Lathland. Her handle on TikTok is Mama Cusses. So just be prepared for that if you want to listen to that. Another podcast that I came across this year and started listening to, both me and my husband listen to it. It's called To Be Better. The number 2, Bebetter. It is by Chris Burkett, and his last name is Burkett, I think. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, and if he comes across this, I apologize. Anywho, my husband and I came across their TikToks first, the clips of the video recording of their podcasts, and he and I were both like, wow. So we started listening to them, and I will tell you what, our relationship and communication has improved so much since listening to this couple and watching, their YouTube, their TikTok, podcast clips and whatnot. And we've incorporated the tools that they suggest, not just for ourselves, but also when, dealing with our daughter and communicating with our daughter. And that has improved that relationship as well. So go check that one out. Both of those out. And stick with this one. Because when I saw that door was open, I was like, of course I questioned, like I said before, what am I supposed to do? Listen to a podcast or, start a podcast? And obviously, from what I described and what I'm doing now, I decided to do both. I was going to do this actually with the neighbor I was talking about previously. We kind of clicked right away, and we clicked over misplaced mail, which is hilarious. I told her, hey, do you want to start a podcast? Because we got so many great ideas. She's like, yeah, sure, let's do it. What do I need to do? I was like, you just have to get a microphone and some headphones, and I will do everything else, because this seemed like something really important and might have value to somebody besides myself, and my neighbor. I started doing the research. I did a lot of the research on our home computer, on my phone. I was looking this stuff up while sitting in the carpool at my daughter's school. I looked up the easiest recording and editing programs. I looked up what's the best microphone for a beginner, and so many other things. And then I got to thinking, I can't do this from our home computer because my daughter uses it for school and watching YouTube videos and other entertainment, and my husband uses it occasionally. I need to get my own laptop. And I brought that up to my husband, and he was like, well, I've seen all the work you've been doing these past few months, and it's not like a normal hobby where you get interested for a few months and then you stop. And that's correct. If something starts getting too hard for me, I'll just stop. And he said, let's do it. So I got my own laptop for this, and it just really set off the drive and boosted the flames of this idea and what is becoming, a passion now, even though you're just listening to episode 1 at the moment. I wanted to do something that I thought was important, that I thought somebody else besides myself could benefit from listening, because that's what I want in a podcast or anything I listen to. It's like, what can somebody else get from this? And what can I help somebody with that's listening to this? And so, I am pushing forward to do this thing that could fail, but I am striving to keep in mind that even though it might fail, at least I did it. And one thing that has saddened me is, like I said previously, my neighbor was supposed to record with me, but unfortunately, time is just not allowing her to join me in this venture. And I was like, I kept waiting and waiting, and I had a few people be like, what, if you feel like this is important, you do it. And I am taking that advice, and while I'm so sad that she can't come, when I want her to, maybe one day she will get time to do this with me, because she is an amazing woman with how hard she works for her family at her job and so many other things. So if she is listening to this, you are always welcome to come and record. And speaking of episode 1, today I'm going to talk about myself. I know that sounds so bad. That sounds very, self-centered of me. But I would like to introduce myself to the people that don't know me. I'm introducing myself as a friend to you. So we are going to jump into that right now. My name, again, is Samantha May. Some of my friends call me Sam. I don't think I've ever had anybody call me Sammy. I guess I just don't look like a Sammy, which is fine. I am 36 years old, and I understand for a lot of people, 36, wow, great, you're not 30 anymore, but you're not 40 yet. But I have always been proud of my age. Have I always been proud of the things that I've done in certain ages? Absolutely not. For example, one of my morning routines to get my brain working and awake in the morning, I will go to my Facebook memories and look back on all the things that I posted. And, there are those, oh, that was funny moments and aw moments. And then there are the moments that I go, oh, no. Like, why would you post that? Why would you say that? And it's all about hindsight. In the moment, it seemed like a great idea. But as I've gotten older and wiser, I have realized the mistakes of my youth, and I have something to look forward to in my older years. And I really can't wait for my older years so that I can pass down the wisdom that I have gained and the knowledge that I have learned to the younger generations, which is basically what this podcast is for. It's to enlighten others, to help them grow or inform them about things they didn't know. And I think a lot of the wisdom I have gained is because of my husband. We have been married for 13 years, together for 15. And my husband Ryan is so loving. He is one of the rocks in my foundation of life that I honestly don't think I would be the person I am or be where I am today without him. He was the first person to love me as I was, to make me feel like I didn't have to hide my problems or lie about them. He was the one that really gave me support in a lot of these decisions that were so hard to make. I will tell you, the easiest decision I've ever made since meeting him was saying yes when he proposed to me. And there's a whole story behind that and really how we met initially. And hopefully I can convince him to sit with me and talk about it and see the different sides of that story. It was mostly him and one other person that really encouraged me to pursue this idea of a podcast, because he saw the wisdom and knowledge that I have gained in, our marriage and being a mom. And I'm gonna cry thinking about how amazing my husband is. But, there are times that we didn't agree on things and we argued. But since we have started listening to that podcast, we have learned coping techniques for both of us. And he has learned how to handle, my ups and downs, and my social anxiety and my sensory issues. And since building a better communication, we'll call it a platform, a communication platform, our marriage has improved so much. Because honestly, there were times that when I was in my downtimes and so low, I was like, he's going to leave me. He's going to take our daughter and leave me. And that terrified me. But I was never in a place where I could, talk to him and tell him how I feel, because, we grew up in the generation where you really don't talk about your feelings to anybody, and you just hold them in, and then you get over it. And there are certain times you just can't get over it. You have to go through those feelings and feel them. And I'm learning that in my maturity. And he has helped me grow mentally and into maturity. And one way he definitely helped in was helping create the amazing child that we have today. That's a terrible segue, but I don't think our daughter would be the girl or the young lady she is now. She's 12. She's almost a teenager. And there are days I'm like, who is this child? And for her safety, we are going to call her Boo, because she is only 12 and creeps on the internet. I look at her and there are times I wish I could have been her growing up. But I see, it's all about how your children are raised. And as parents, we are supposed to give them better opportunities that we had when we were growing up, and learn from our parents' mistakes. And that, I know that's what I did. I grew up with a emotionally and mentally abusive mother, and a dad that worked more often than he was home. And when he wasn't working, he would either spend a little time at home, or he would go off and help somebody else do something, or go fishing to relax. And as I'm thinking about it, because of I'm older, and I see with less rose-colored glasses, I guess, the struggles that he was going through, not only working so much, but coming home to a wife that didn't love him the way he loved her. I see that, and I don't want that kind of relationship with my husband. And before he passed several years ago, I was working to get a better relationship with him. And Lord, he loved Boo before he passed. He loved spending time with her. He loved being her Poppy, because the nickname I had for him was Pop, and somehow that accumulated to Poppy instead of Grandpa or Papa, because I live in the South. And I was repairing that relationship with him and learning even more from him, because when we moved down here to Mississippi, because I'm not originally from Mississippi, I'm from Illinois, but according to all of my friends and family members that live here, they say I've been here long enough to be an official Southerner. When we moved down here in 2000, He was working for a company that had just built a new facility, and it was a big move for us, and I was kind of angry at him, but also kind of excited. But I was kind of angry at him from taking me away from my friends and the family that lived in Illinois. But when we moved down here, his schedule changed, and, we did get to see him more. But on 9/11, like several months after, the facility that he worked at closed down. And then he had to find a new job, and then his schedule changed again. And then, I don't know if he quit. No, I believe he was let go. And then he had to find another job. And just to support our family, because my mother did not want to work. There was a point she did work at the same facility that, caused us to move down here. And for the record, it wasn't just me. It was, my mother and my dad and my older brother and my younger brother. But it always felt like he was trying to get out of the house, but also work to support us. And I see that now, and I hate that I couldn't fully repair that relationship with my dad that I wanted to, and that he can't see the growth and accomplishments of Boo anymore. But looking back, I see the wise decision that he made, because if we hadn't moved down here, I wouldn't have met the amazing man that became my husband, or met the amazing woman that became my mother-in-law and the mother that I needed. I wouldn't have met the women that would become my sisters, and the now men who became my brothers. And they are all so amazing. If we hadn't moved down here, I wouldn't have met them. And if there was a chance that he could come back just for a day or for a few hours, I would tell him all about the accomplishments that our little family has gone through and all the struggles we've gone through. But I would also thank him profusely for making that decision to come down to Mississippi from Illinois. And I also wouldn't have met the two women who have been my friends for 23 years now. And if they didn't know it, they helped me through a lot of things in my younger years before I met my husband. And one other fun fact is that I wouldn't have become, I don't think, a chicken lady. I have currently 15 chickens and 2 ducks. And if you are on the fence right now about getting birds, do it. If you live out in the country and you can get them, do it. Not just for the benefits of eggs or meat, but they are great pest control. They are amazing pest control. Yes, if you have them as free-range birds, they will poop everywhere. That is one of the downsides of them. And their feathers get everywhere too, which is kind of terrifying and hilarious. It's terrifying because you think, oh no, something got my birds. And it's hilarious because when you see your chicken or your duck with only one tail feather, it is the funniest thing ever. But I have found so much peace in just watching my chickens and ducks do their little birdie things. And when it came to the pest control, I did not have to worry about my dogs getting ticks or really fleas. I didn't really have to worry about that because the chickens would eat them. They wouldn't get on the dogs and scratch and peck at them because that's weird. And I have 2 dogs until this past July we had 3, but our oldest dog, Susie, who was our first family dog, we got her when Boo was around a year old. She passed away from some health complications that we didn't know about until it was basically too late. The dogs were not having to scratch at themselves because of ticks and fleas unless, we went somewhere with them that had ticks and fleas. So if you're thinking of getting, chickens or even ducks, I guess, but mostly, in the aspect of chickens, if you live in town, go see what kind of permits that you need to get and what restrictions that you have when it comes to chickens in a town or city. Because I've heard that you can't really get roosters if you live in town because they're noisy and they attract other animals. But if you can get them, because, again, there's something so therapeutic about watching them wander around if you can do the whole free-range thing. And there's just something so great about them running towards you and being excited to see you that your dog gets excited to see you if you been gone. But there's just something different about watching those birds get excited to see you. I am planning this coming spring to add to my flock. I want to get a few more chickens. I know for sure a couple more ducks and some geese because I can't remember where I heard it or saw it. It may have been on TikTok. But geese are very good, guard birds. Not that my roosters, yes, I have 2. And they are freaking hilarious to watch. Not that my roosters can't take care of my flock, but I guess because, geese are so big and so mean that they can kind of protect a flock better than just the roosters. I did have some geese. They made it to at least adolescence before some predator got them a few years back. And my husband was on the fence about getting them when I told him that I wanted them. He was like, oh, but they're so mean and they poop everywhere. I was like, well, the chickens poop everywhere. But if geese, they bond to you or to your family members, they will love on you. And I know you've probably seen those videos, reels, whatever, where you see geese hugging, quote unquote, their owners or the person that they've bonded to. Basically, all birds are like that. One of my neighbor's ducks, he will wander up close to me and he will just, lay down, snuggle up. And I love that so much. There's just the trust that these animals have. I understand, your cat trusts you, your dog, or whatever animal, but this thing that is very ironically flighty, coming up and feeling safe enough to get in their most comfortable sleeping position and not have to worry about getting chased, hurt, or whatever. It fills me personally with a sense of accomplishment that this essentially wild animal trusts me to keep it safe. But if you're like me and you have dogs, and I think you can do the same thing with cats, you need to slowly introduce them to your chicks, ducklings, goslings, whatever, the same as you would a new puppy, a new kitten. Because if you don't do that, they will chase your birds and unalive them. And when we really talked about getting chickens several years ago, we did some research and we learned techniques on how to introduce, the dogs to the birds. And when it comes to dogs, if you've never seen a dog trainer video or, seen a dog trainer, they would tell you that you cannot discipline a dog right after they've done something. You have to catch them in the act. And our dog Susie, while she was introduced to our birds when they were very young, when we got them, she had a bad habit of chasing after them when they were roaming around the yard. And unfortunately, she got a hold of one, and my husband caught her in the act, and he used the chicken to discipline Susie, because she knew she wasn't supposed to chase the birds, and two, she unalived one of my freaking chickens. After that, she never chased one of my birds again, unless for some reason it was going after her. And in all the flocks that I've had, and I've had a few because I've had predators get them, or they've wandered off to never return again, which is always sad. But when we've introduced any new birds to our dogs, our boxer has always put herself in the place, in the position of nanny. Stella, because that's her name, would always kind of do that warning snarl to any of our dogs, either Susie or our German Shepherd Otis when we got him later on. She would give that warning snarl that you're too close to the babies, back off a bit, you seem too eager, back off a bit. One really funny story is the very first rooster I had was this very small chicken. I cannot remember the name of the breed, but he was very small, him and the female. And he had that mindset of, I'm bigger than I am, and he would go after my German Shepherd. But Stella, she would get into stalk mode, and she would stare that sucker down while he was puffing up and jumping and doing those threatening little chicken things. And she would just stalk straight toward him, not afraid. And he would look at her and go, yes, ma'am, I'm in the wrong, and then walk away. And recently, this year, my German Shepherd got it into the mind that I'm guessing one of the chickens or a couple of the chickens have gotten out of line. So he has nabbed them. They're in his mouth, and he's out with my husband doing whatever my husband's doing, and he brings the chicken to my husband, and obviously my husband's, oh crap, he got one of the chickens, and he tell Otis to drop the chicken because obviously it wasn't moving. But as soon as he dropped it, that chicken would break out of the shock and run away. And other than my chicken being scared half to death, there was nothing wrong with it. It obviously learned to run faster than the dog, or run places where the dog can't reach. But Otis is such a good boy. He doesn't want to hurt anybody. He just wants to protect his pack, be it chickens, ducks, my neighbor's turkeys, or his people, because he is our goodest boy. And I'm not the only one who loves our chickens. Boo absolutely loves our chickens. She loves showing them off to anybody that comes to our house, and I love that for her. I love that she loves being a host. Is she a good host every time? No, not really, but neither am I. Nobody is a perfect host, and if they tell you that they are lying. Sorry, I apologize, I was really loud. But teaching Boo how to be a decent human being in life has become not only a lesson for her, but a lesson for me too, because, nobody's perfect. And that is something that I have tried to teach Boo her entire life. And as someone who's been a stay-at-home mom and been able to teach her that thing, teach her how to be a decent human being has been a learning experience for myself, and the way that, it's become a norm in society for both parents to work while, child stays with a nanny, a daycare, a family member. But it's become an oddity for women to be content to stay at home, to be a provider in a different way. Yes, I do not bring home a financial provision for my family, but I provide my family with clean clothes, a clean house where they feel safe and comfortable. I provide them food by going to the grocery store and cooking dinner, making them breakfast, making them lunch. Just, I'm providing a different way. And I'm not saying that working moms don't provide that, because, I know several great working moms that do that as well. But for me, I didn't think that I could work and be able to keep up with both my job and my home. And I know there may be people that ask, doesn't your husband help you with anything? Yes, he does. And he's helping me even more since listening to that podcast. I honestly cannot say enough about that amazing podcast. It is also allowing me to finally learn how to be independent. It is allowing me to become the person I am now. It is also allowing me to do this, to maybe help somebody who is struggling with something, or who just needs to hear a funny story on a bad day. And I am more than happy to do all of that. I think that's always been kind of a dream or a passion for me, is to be able to help somebody with something. There was a point in my life I thought, I'd want to become a counselor of some kind, because I think if you go into that kind of field, you have to have the mindset that you can listen and you're patient in the listening. And I know I'm describing that so wrong. And another way to describe it badly is I love listening to people's problems. That is such an awful way to describe it. But, there are times people just need to vent. And they don't have anybody in their lives that will just listen and not judge or force their advice. Because I know as someone who is home alone and I just hear myself, I want to be able to complain about something and nobody try to fix my problem. Unless, I say, hey, I need help. And somebody in the position of a counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist, they have to be able to listen and see that need that wants to be filled. And again, that is a terrible way to describe it. But that is really the end of my crazy introduction. Now I'm going to get into some important facts about the podcast. I will drop new episodes every Wednesday. And if you have any questions, comments, any recommendations that you have, you can send all of those to the podcast email, southernmillennialmoms@gmail.com. That's southernmillennialmoms with an S @gmail.com. I will put it in the description of every episode. And just so you know, I made the email before my neighbor was unable to do the podcast with me, and I'm just too lazy to make a new one. But send all that stuff to that email so that I can hear from you, the listeners. And just so y'all know, there will be episodes in the future of listener questions, recommendations, comments, things like that. If you're comfortable with me using your name, leave your name. If you have a nickname or social media handle that you'd like to use, leave that instead. But those, I think, are going to be my favorite episodes to do because I want to hear what you think as well. I am always open for advice and recommendations of any kind. But keep it clean, keep it kind. And we're going to talk about all kinds of things on here. We're going to talk about the differences in having no kids to multiple kids. I'm going to have some amazing guests for that. I'm going to talk about actual Southern living. I have requested on several social media outlets that people send me, their hot takes of living in the South. I'm going to have a very special guest come in for an episode talking about cutting out toxicity from our lives, from people to situations to places. I'm going to have my husband come in and talk about several different topics because he has a different way of thinking than I do on certain topics, and I love hearing his opinions, and I'm sure there are a lot of people out there that would love to hear his opinions as well. There are going to be episodes about mom things, about wife things, and about women things that I don't think are talked about a lot in, you hear about it and see it on TikTok and social media, and this is basically a social media, but I want to talk about the experiences that I've gone through and what I've learned from them, and hopefully that might help somebody else, which is what I want this podcast to do again. So tell me what you think, either through the email or if you know me in person, tell me in person. If you found out this podcast through my social media, send me a DM. I want to know your recommendations, your comments, what you thought, or if you have topic ideas that you want me to talk about, let me know. Because I want to know. I want to do the research so it is just not, what I think should happen or what I think, because I want to know facts. I want to do the research. So let me know. And I know that I'm repeating myself a lot, but I feel it in my soul that something I say might help somebody or improve somebody's day. So now that I'm done talking, I hope everybody has an amazing day, evening, whenever you're listening to this. And I will see y'all on the flip side. I love you. Bye.